have amazing guests from three different builders in the Web3 ecosystem. First one is Valeria Kholostenko. She's CMO for Astar Network. Astar is the #1 smart contract hub for WASM and EVM on Polkadot. Valeria has extensive experience helping tech startups. She led strategic collaborations at Parity Technologies, which is driving Polkadot adoption as well. She also helped Luxor blockchain as their CMO and joined Consensus early on, slightly earlier than me, as head of development and global community supporting the Ethereum ecosystem. So lots of experience there. Emre Tekizalp is the CEO of O1 Labs, the San Francisco-based startup that incubated Mina protocol. O1 Labs is now focused on bringing novel zero-knowledge capabilities to developers via ZK apps on Mina. Before O1 Labs, Emre led business development for Coinbase during a period of 10x growth. Earlier in his career, Emre worked in product management and business development at Intel and Ripple. And last but not least, Matthew Taylor, head of growth at Solana Labs. Solana is the 6th largest blockchain ecosystem today with $40 billion in market capitalization. Prior to Solana, Matthew spent 2 years leading marketing for another blockchain, 0x, and worked at Square for several years as well. His passion for blockchain started early on, and he wrote his undergraduate thesis on the economics of proof-of-work consensus mechanisms. So quite early on in his career, he was already very interested in blockchain. Like you guys watching us from King's College and other universities, a pleasure to have you guys here with us today. So, first question. I would like to hear from all guests, but maybe Valeria could kick us off. What is the unique approach that your blockchain protocol has in solving a problem? What makes your blockchain, Astar in this case, unique, Valeria?
Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. So as Patrick mentioned, Astar Network is the #1 TVL smart contract hub for WASM and EVM on Polkadot. Since winning our Parachain auction in January, Astar has become the top Parachain in the Polkadot ecosystem in total value locked, 1.6 billion as of yesterday. We also connect to Ethereum, Cosmos, and all major layer 1 blockchains. And Astar Network also supports dApps using multiple virtual machines, namely WASM and EVM. And we offer incentives via our Build to Earn program, which I'll chat about a little bit later, as well as our Astar Incubation program.
Awesome. And Emre, in the case of Mina, how would you say the unique value proposition is?
Yeah, thanks once again, Patrick, and hello, everyone. So Mina is all about zero-knowledge proofs, and we're using ZK technology in 2 innovative ways. The first one is Mina is the world's first async blockchain. What that means is it gives users full node capability with a tiny amount of data in the order of kilobytes. And it's a fixed size, so no matter how high throughput the chain gets, it's always maximally decentralized. So it's a very sustainable design. And second of all, Mina also leverages ZK technology to enable what we call ZK apps, which basically allow users to treat their data privately. So if you want to use a DeFi app, or if you want to use your NFT, show it around, instead of sharing all your data with the blockchain or with other people, you can make instead attestations about your information. So whether it's your KYC information or your financial background or ownership of an NFT or a social media or DAO votes, anything zero knowledge technology on Mina enables you to keep your data to yourself and only share attestations of whatever the application you want to use needs.
Awesome. I have a further question about this, but we'll get to that. Matty, first, you in terms of Solana. Everybody knows that Solana grew tremendously last year. Where is Solana heading now?
Yeah, I think still very early days for crypto generally, and the goal is always to get billions of concurrent users using blockchain networks at a given time. And so Solana was kind of designed for that for that time. And so we're just trying to scale up the throughput and lower the fees and make sure that it's decentralized along the way. And I think the one unique thing, I guess, about Solana versus other layer 1 chains is that it's designed to scale without sacrificing on composability. So for those that don't know, it's this notion of being able to use open source software and mix and match and combine different pieces of already built open source software to create like new applications. And I think the only way that we saw that could happen is with scaling on like a single state, rather than separating out state through things like layer 2s and sharding and such. And so we're just focused on growing that ecosystem and making sure that the chain is very performant, so that people can create very usable and nicely designed experiences in a Web3 format. So Solana.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great point, I think, that you bring up, because scalability issues with gas fees, that's what we have all been seeing, especially with the growth of DeFi, and a little bit of Ethereum's shortcomings, and then several blockchains have grown on top of that, on the back of that. Valeria, what do you think in terms of scalability and where the market is now? How can we bring more people into crypto?
Well, so on the technical front, I mean, the question I guess comes up is like, how can you use a blockchain if it's prohibitive in terms of cost, right? What's nice about WebAssembly that we see as the future is that it's extremely scalable, something that Solidity will not achieve in the short term. Most companies today have developers who code in different languages, and we need to make sure that companies have the infrastructure to build on the blockchain. And so what's nice about WASM is that it can be compiled from a lot of already established languages. Companies can use already in-house developers to build smart contracts and then compile into WASM. On the financial side, there is investment interest from the greater population as people are realizing the dollar, gold, and real estate are trumped by crypto as a store of value. And many are looking into Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs as they see a lot of movement in this area. So as they're also watching the Fed continue to print money, right? So I think, especially, for example, with this, with the war in Ukraine, we see digital currencies really take center stage because cryptocurrencies are borderless. People fleeing Ukraine can only not take crypto with them wherever they go, but it's become instrumental in supporting Ukraine in an open, transparent manner, where large NGOs have demonstrated in the past that they have a record of overpaying their executives. So there's a huge opportunity for crypto assets to step in and demonstrate their strength to circumvent the slow and expensive banking system, especially right now.
Yeah, great point, I think, that you touched on. And we see this in Ukraine, but also Venezuela and so many other countries around the world. That's an absolutely fantastic point. On this topic still of mass adoption, Matty, what do you think? Are we ready for mass adoption now, or do we need the ecosystem to be more mature? What are your thoughts on how to bring more people into crypto?
Yeah, I think in terms of like if we're ready for mass adoption yet, if we're ready for billions of people to use these systems at the same time, I would say probably not. And there's probably a few different layers of that. One, I think there's just like I don't think any of these chains are ready for that type of usage. Tomorrow. I think there's still a fair amount of scaling and user experience kind of like downstream from that. For wallets, for dApps, like it's still not as user friendly, right, as like downloading and like signing up for Facebook and just like, you know, using Web 2 like applications. And so I think there's still a lot of things that need to get figured out. But I think it'll get there, and it'll get there soon. Also, there's probably a fair amount of like regulation that needs to get figured out before billions of people are using these things on a daily basis. And maybe just the fact that more and more people are going to use it in the future will evolve that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of us are trying. That's like why we're here. Like, we're trying to get more people to use these things and to get to that point of like, you know, billions of people using it. So yeah, it's going to happen soon.
Cool. Yeah. And what about you, Emra? I mean, the other day I was at King's College and I was giving a lecture on Web3 marketing. And actually I was surprised that not that many people in the classroom were like completely bought in Web3. They were still mostly Web2 folks. And at, let's say, the age group that we would think, well, this guy should all be Web3 now. So what do you think are the barriers for adoption of Web3? Do you agree with Matty that it's more user experience? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all like in this group, we're all bought in, right? Like we all understand the technology and how much of a fundamental shift it can be. But when you zoom out and look at like who uses Web3, what we call Web3 today, and for what, you quickly realize, you know, other than for speculation or, you know, flipping assets we were talking about earlier, there's actually not that many users. Like even on Ethereum, the application that is not about token buying and selling, that has the most, you know, total value locked is MakerDAO. And like since its inception, about 80,000 addresses have interacted with MakerDAO. Like that's nothing, right? So we're nowhere near, you know, adoption. We're nowhere near usage other than for this, you know, 24/7 casino that we're seeing, you know, where people are speculating, which just to Maddie's point earlier, like we're still so early. And our thesis on why that's not happening yet is, you know, for all the potential value out of DeFi and NFTs and whatnot, there's no easy way to get in. Like to use most of these services, you still have to put in a bunch of money. You know, whether you have to buy an NFT or whether you have to put up an over-collateralized position to take out a loan or do a trade. And no one wants to do that. Like people have normal lives. They don't want to speculate or gamble or bet on things. They're not investors, you know, or they don't want to be day-to-day investors to be able to benefit from these services. And our, you know, inevitably biased position is that zero knowledge technology holds one of the, if not a main key for this, because it allows people to easily use data and, you know, non-valuable, you know, information about themselves or assets about themselves in a private way in this new Web3 world. You know, so whether it's about, I don't know, leveraging your credit score from your, you know, normal life, or whether it's about, you know, proving to a DeFi application that you receive X amount of salary in your bank account every month, and then be able to get underwritten and take out a loan. Or, you know, it's about showing that you have a certain Twitter address or Twitter account or an NFT, and yet not disclosing everything there is about yourself. We believe these are important on-ramps to get everyone to, you know, benefit more from these applications and technologies without necessarily having to put up money that they may not have, or they might not feel comfortable enough to, you know, put it on this very speculative technology and asset class.
Yeah, no, I agree. Zero knowledge is a super important tool. Could you, just for the sake of the audience, maybe just explain how it would work? I mean, what's the difference between sharing your data as we do normally versus a zero knowledge experience? Yeah. What does it look like?
Yeah, so a simple example today, if you wanted to take out a loan from a smart contract, you know, dApp, and don't want to, you know, put up like an over collateralized position. In the normal world, you know, because in the normal world too, there is over collateralized loans, right? You can put up your assets and take out against them to decrease your fees. But normally what you do is you make an application, right, to a bank or another financial institution, and they underwrite you. Like they look at your credit score, credit background, or they look at your other financial information, such as, you know, past, you know, loan paybacks or your salary, So they create a profile for you. Today, if you wanted to do that with a smart contract, you have to submit all of this information to the blockchain, right? And as we know, in all blockchains today, every information is public for anyone to see forever. So, no one in their right mind would do that. They would not submit this information to a smart contract. What zero knowledge technology instead enables is, so just before I get in there, what zero knowledge is it's a cryptographic technique that has a property to say, I have, as a device, I have executed a computation, and here's a proof that I've done it correctly. That's the very highest level explanation of it. And what that enables in this case is to be able to say to the smart contract lending application, things like, I have, a credit score above a certain threshold from a, trusted data provider, but I'm not sharing with you my, identification number or my actual credit score or my entire credit report. All you get to see, smart contract, is that there's a proof that says this user has access to a credit profile that is, above a certain threshold, or has a salary above a certain amount, or has paid back their loans within, a certain performance metric. So attestation is the key word there, and it allows people to engage with these value add services without, violently breaching their privacy, and be able to have much more intelligent interactions.
Awesome, very good. Cool, Valeria. And let me know your thoughts then in terms of any of the issues that you see that are preventing the growth of the industry. I mean, we touched on a few of them.
Yeah, I think to follow up on this, something that Emery was saying, I believe that adoption of cryptocurrency may be limited due to most people understanding of the financial system and how it operates. DeFi being one of the big primitives on the blockchain, I believe one has to understand the financial system in order to be able to understand its limitations, and therefore blockchain DeFi solutions, which are much more sophisticated and interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Cool. And just a reminder for our audience to ask questions here in the comment section so we can address your questions as well towards the end. One other question that I have regarding the industry. I mean, we are so dependent on, I guess, two big players, I would say. Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is doing well, everybody else is kind of relaxed. And when it's not doing that well, then the market situation is tense. And Ethereum as well. So whatever is happening with Ethereum, as the number one smart contract platform in terms of market capitalization, then everybody else is also reacting to that. So Ethereum now, I was looking yesterday, I think it's $390 billion in terms of market capitalization. So in our ecosystem, it is the big guy, right? So as Ethereum 2.0 approaches and everybody's, really looking into this, is it coming, and when is it coming? If it does come, and when it comes, it may solve its scalability issues, which could, of course, cause the market to move. So I would like to learn your views about that. How do you guys foresee the impact of a successful Ethereum 2.0 coming to the market? Or, if it doesn't fulfill all its goals, also, how do you see this for your blockchain, right, for your ecosystem? So maybe let's start with Matti.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to see, and I'm sure it will be successful, the kind of move to proof of stake for Ethereum and later sharding, and I think it's gonna really increase its performance, and it's gonna be really beneficial for the whole Ethereum ecosystem. And so I just don't I don't think it affects that much what we're doing at Solana because of our different architecture and kind of the goals that our community is kind of shooting for. I think the main thing, and I touched on this in the beginning, was this notion of like composability, is that even if Ethereum 2 or whatever they're calling it now gets rolled out perfectly, and these L2s like scale up as well, it's still not going to solve this problem of having a single state that people can compose with and build open source software on. And so I think that's going to break a lot of really core use cases in DeFi and NFTs. But there's a ton of use cases that don't need composability, right? And I think Ethereum's an awesome place to build those use cases. So yeah, I'm generally really excited to see this roll out. I think it's been many years. I think like sharding has been talked about almost since the beginning of Ethereum, and as well as like moving to proof of stake. So exciting to see all that work come to fruition.
Cool. And you, Emma, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just a quick observation on what you just said about, the market reacting overwhelming to Bitcoin and Ethereum. It also goes to show how early we still are, and more of as an asset class, right? Because the reason for what you said is outside money, let's say, people that buy into crypto usually go in via Bitcoin and Ethereum because those are the two, majority market share assets. And then what happens is, that money cycles into the rest of the industry. So it is what it is, right? And it's just, again, as the market matures, as the asset class matures, this is going to get more complicated, and probably the correlation between the different assets is going to decrease. And what that means, ETH 2.0 or other major layer ones as initiatives, what that means for Mina is, it's great for Mina, because the way Mina is designed is all the ZK app functionality that I talked about before. Mina, because of its unique design as what we call a succinct blockchain, it almost acts as a roll-up to any other layer one, whether it's Ethereum. And in fact, the Mina Foundation has been working with the Ethereum Foundation to get what's called a trusted bridge developed, where basically the whole Mina stake gets verified on Ethereum, or whether it's to Polkadot or Solana or any other chain. It aims to bring the ZK app data verification functionality by not requiring applications built on other chains to move over to Mina or move over anywhere else. It basically adds or functions as an add-on where apps retain their main logic, or whether they're using the other chains as an asset settlement layer, and then add this new functionality on top. So the more powerful Ethereum gets, the more powerful Solana, Polkadot gets, the better for us, because we want more complex and more value-add applications. And we believe Mina has its own niche as this unique functionality, and we want to bring it to the entire ecosystem.
Awesome. And Valeria?
Yeah, we see it the same way. ETH2 will just bring more people into the industry, and they grow, we grow. We see them more as a partner and bringing blockchain to the daily use of more people. So I think everyone agrees on this. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. We'll have to create some other topic here to the panel steering a little bit more. But maybe, Valeria, you could address this cross-chain integration topic that Emil just touched base on, because that's a key element for Astar, right? So how do you see this growing with Ethereum 2.0, even without Ethereum? I mean, how do you see this as a trend in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely see the future as a multi-chain future, and Astar kind of positions itself as a hub for cross-chain layer one, hub for all the different layer ones to interact. So yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
Cool. So maybe a question now that can stir a little bit more. We've seen some countries like India creating barriers for the use of crypto, while others are creating a framework regulation that is more permissive. Like the US is, going to create a major set of regulatory framework that will regulate crypto there. in the UK here as well, we're seeing movements towards that. Other jurisdictions are super pro crypto, like Malta, crypto island, El Salvador, even Switzerland, you could say. So how do you guys navigate through these regulatory conditions, right? So depending on the jurisdiction where you are either loved or hated. So how do you see that, Emre? Maybe you could kick us off on this.
Yeah. So disclaimer, like O1 Labs is a technical contributor to the Mina protocol. We don't, we're not in a position to hold specific opinions. That for the Mina protocol is with the Mina Foundation on the regulatory environment. My personal views on just general what helps, and having been in the industry for a while, what I've seen to sustainably help is decentralization, right? What makes this entire, whether it's an asset class or technology, whichever perspective and lens you look at it from, is that these are decentralized open source projects that allow anyone to take part. So I believe the regulators also want to see, projects that do have, that are not controlled or influenced by a single entity. They want, an open source and a wide contribution landscape. So, the more you see a project being adopted or used or contributed by, the more individuals or entities, I think, yeah, that's the essence of this entire thing. And that's what sets it up, if we're talking about an asset class separate from a security or and as a technology platform separate from the Googles of the world, right? So I think we as an industry also need to both continue explaining this more to, regulators and any other lawmakers, and also continue focusing on this, right? Because otherwise, the standard critique about, if anyone remembers like the 2016, it's blockchain, not Bitcoin type approaches, is it was all like these private blockchains that maybe had, I don't know, consortiums of 3 to 5 entities, which at that point you get to the, place where like blockchains ultimately are super inefficient databases. If you're not, and the only benefit it has is decentralization, which adds trust. If you're not getting that benefit, why not use just the basic, simple old school database? So we got to lean in on decentralization. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, great points. Great points, absolutely. Valeria, any thoughts on that?
Can you reiterate what the direction we're going here?
Yeah. So how do you think that blockchains should navigate through all these different regulatory frameworks? So, US, for instance, is building their own regulatory framework now. UK as well. Other jurisdictions are super friendly towards crypto, and we just touch based on the aspect of decentralization. That definitely supports this.
Yeah, I mean,
any thoughts on this?
In the US, we have some states that are, further ahead than others, Wyoming being one. The Colorado government actually works very closely with the organizers of East Denver, for example, in passing certain laws that would benefit crypto-friendly companies and crypto entrepreneurs. So, for example, I'm part of a, employment co-op called Opolis, which allows me to receive regular paychecks, which allow me to, demonstrate my income, that I earn in the crypto industry, that allows me to purchase, homes, right? So that is something that I always thought was going to be a limitation for me as an entrepreneur, especially in crypto, because I get paid in crypto, even if it's stable coins, right? So it kind of, puts me outside of the standard economy of the US. But with this organization, Opolis, I'm able to participate in it, and it offers, health insurance benefits and other things. And so I know, sorry to kind of bring it back to the bigger picture. I think it's going to be up to each individual, jurisdiction or state to really pioneer the adoption, visibility, and education of cryptocurrencies. And, from there, basically, that will kind of trickle up, and changes can be made.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the blockchain industry can also work together, like with this government bodies, right? And I think there are definitely some associations, for instance, Global Blockchain Business Council is doing a great job on that front, even the World Economic Forum as well. Cool. We do have a question here from the audience about the about the previous topic that we touched base, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Anonymous asked, what implications will the flippening bring? So flippening, that's when Ethereum flips Bitcoin. That's the biggest cryptocurrency. Who would like to take this one?
I can have a go. I don't want to speculate on if it'll happen, right? I'm not sure if it's a when question.
Yeah, it's considering it will happen.
Yeah. What I'd be excited to see more of is, and I started seeing some research like this, but basically for more projects, and I think Ethereum has done this well, personally, for there to be basically cash flow mechanics underlying these assets. So with, when Ethereum turned on, the I forget the EIP, but how certain part of transaction fees now get burned. What that creates is, the more usage of the Ethereum chain there is, the more deflationary pressure there is on the asset on Ether, and that creates interesting price or valuation mechanics or valuation frameworks that allow more traditional or sophisticated investors to come in and say, okay, this, based on projections of growth of usage of Ethereum, this is what I think the price of ETH should be. And that creates this interesting dynamic where, rather than just, betting on the speculative value of an asset or, how much, they think the macro crypto industry is going to be worth, and thus how much should ETH be worth as a percentage of that asset. People can come in and do real fundamental analysis on these assets. And, other chains exhibit similar properties. There's also other dynamics such as staking, et cetera, that provide other fundamental, mechanisms to evaluating these assets. So, if it happens, when it happens, I'm just excited to see, why it has done that, why people have felt like ETH is more valuable or valuable to a certain point, that it flips Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin, no matter what happens with, ETH or other assets, more as this value generating asset with cash flow, Bitcoin is always going to be this, at this point, I think, this digital gold, right? Where people are going to hopefully see it as a safe haven, and not as a productive asset, right? Instead, it's just this dormant, safe, non-national asset that people can put some money into at whenever they want to hedge the economy.
Yeah, I agree with a lot what Emery said. But I think that last point is really important because, first of all, huge fan of Bitcoin, really believe in the concept of non-sovereign, store of value, medium of exchange. And so it's going to continue becoming adopted. But I think what's interesting is if you look at, traditional markets, the markets for productive assets are much larger, right, than non-productive assets. And I think that's going to be the case in crypto too. And I think if the flippening were to occur, I think that's a signaling that, all of the use cases in NFTs, DeFi, and all these long tail Web3 use cases are going to generate so much more value, right, in a lot of different ways than just decentralized money. And so I think, the economy is being built on top of these L1 chains like Ethereum and Solana and Mina and others. I think that's what's super exciting, that the flippening could signal to the market. So yeah.
Cool. Very good. Very good. Good answers. Tricky question. We have a couple of questions about building on blockchain, which is amazing. I really love to see those. Kathleen Denver asked, I'm a university student and I'm interested in learning and being a part of Web3. Is there a one-stop shop to learn about it? I often find it difficult to learn because I am overwhelmed by the number of Discord groups. Yes, it's definitely overwhelming. Who would like to take this this question? Where could somebody learn more about Web3?
I can speak to some of the points that I think would be useful. Yeah, I think, there's definitely a lot of Twitter personalities, and oftentimes people that are just coming into the crypto space don't realize which percentage of them are pushers of the projects that they're paid for and they're influencing, and which people are just actually speaking about the technology. So I can see where confusion can, exist there. I mean, for me, like in the very beginning, which was, 5 years ago, Andreas Antonopoulos was a great resource. And he's so old school, but like he clarifies the most complicated concepts into the most digestible, really simple, approachable forms. And so I think starting with someone like him is a great place. And then just kind of like going in your different directions, like depending on the ecosystem you follow, because as we all know, crypto is pretty tribal. So just identifying like the top speaking voices in each of the ecosystems and figuring out like what attracts you to it after you understand some of the mechanics. I think one thing about Web3 is that it's you really have to want to be in it. It's not for the weak of heart, because we go through such extreme cycles. I mean, we've been in like a bull market for a while now, and somebody entering into it now would probably consider like, oh, everything is like great all the time. And the thing is, it's not, like it really, it's a roller coaster ride. And so you have to just like really, really want to be in it. Like like for me, like I really kind of bought into the philosophy of blockchain. And so even during like the bear cycle, I continued striving and, working in it, even though, I mean, it's just like night and day in terms of the way that things work. So I think as a person coming into it, once you identify like the projects you're interested in or the ecosystem you're interested in, yes, go into the Discord. And then, I know some projects have like a Trello board or other activities that you can participate in. Like even for me and many people that entered around 2016, 2017 space, like people like just started working for projects without compensation. Right now, it may seem like that's a ludicrous idea because of all the money in the space, but like, there's just like a certain amount of like gusto or like you have to want this thing. And so participating in Discord channels, hackathons if you're a builder, but there's other opportunities for non-developers as well. And then really just trying to really really participate in the project's activities that you're interested in, instead of just expecting that somebody will give you a job just because you want one.
Yeah, no, totally relate with that. And I think the philosophical point that you mentioned is also extremely important, right? If you're in tune with what this Web3, world is bringing, then yes, then you definitely, fall into the rabbit hole and never look back.
I also wanted to quickly add to recommend, to add on to Valeria, like to recommend also check out like objective or agnostic sources, such as like, I don't know, like, the book publisher O'Reilly comes to mind, right? Like if you want to, do more like development oriented stuff, or, like classes or schools or, web, I don't know what they're called, web schools, let's say, that give, classes generally in any sort of like programming or web development, because we're super, again, this I don't want this to be like a cop-out answer where like, well, we're super early, but we are super early in that, one doesn't ask the question like, okay, how do I start developing for the internet? Well, even if you do, like, the answer is like, okay, you need to learn certain, if it's about programming, certain program development frameworks. You got to have some basic knowledge about how the internet works and how computers work, right? So there's a lot of agnostic resources out there. Like, it's not just classes from Microsoft or Google or whatever, right? It's lots of classes that are just objective sources of truth. So we need more of that, basically. So I would say, but it's happening, right? So to the extent of whether it's the college you're attending, or whether it's a reputable internet resource that provides education material, look to see if they have classes or anything about Web3 development. If they don't, request them for that, and over time we'll get more objective sources of truth.
Yeah, great points. Matthew, do you have any other points to add to this one?
No, I mean, I think, Andreas Antonopoulos was what I was going to say. That guy's awesome. That's how I learned a lot. And when I was starting kind of my journey, it's just there's so much noise in the space. I don't know how people actually dig through all of it at this point. And so it's a challenge. The only thing I'll add, like, obviously, like, getting on Twitter, getting in these Discord channels, like trying to find quality projects and learn about how they work and how L1s work. And I think one thing I would maybe suggest is, I agree that you need to kind of like fully commit to this, but it's helpful if you fully commit with some other people and like have a group of people that are kind of like your friends that are also wanting to get in, to learn about this, and create a group chat and be pinging them all day about stuff that you're learning, and like bouncing ideas off, and just kind of like learning with that group as you kind of go through this like crazy jungle of like information. And so I think it's helpful to go on this journey with some friends along the way, and try to make friends in the space that you really respect. And that's like the one thing that's, I think, is really fascinating about crypto as well, is like the community is like very open. Like, you can almost DM anyone on Twitter and they'll respond, like, no matter if they have like even millions of followers. And if you really just like want to learn about the space, people are willing to teach. So
yeah, no, totally. You're completely right there. If I may add, one form is through ambassador programs. So all major blockchains have ambassador programs, and you can join them and even get paid to complete bounties or tasks depending on the blockchain platform. You will see different ways, but you can even earn money by doing that. So that's a great way to learn, by doing, and not only that, you also earn some money for working with the blockchain. Very good. We have one more question that is also about building, which is amazing. And it's from Thomas Tan. He says that he's pitching for the Mayor of London. That's really cool. And he's in the semifinals. And I think that he needs to start building the solution. So he's asking, should I hire a smart contract developer? But I think would be yes. But what would be good for the panel to answer is, what should he take into account when choosing a chain? Does it make a difference if he builds on L1 or L2, layer 1 or layer 2 blockchains? Maybe quickly, if each one of you guys could address that. Maybe Valeria, you could start.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think you have to kind of decide which ecosystem appeals to you and understand the technical limitations and capabilities of each one. I mean, each ecosystem has like its own like personalities, really. And so you really kind of want to do your research and which direction you go with it. I mean, I think in terms of building layer 1 or layer 2, I mean, layer 1 is like a big undertaking if you're looking to build your own blockchain. I think you just basically have to realize if it's a dApp you're building, or is it, if you're going after, and competing with like a Astar or a Solana, right? So I think that that question for you, Thomas, can be answered by just kind of diving in deeper into each ecosystem and really seeing like what you identify with. Because like I said, like you're choosing your tribe. So these are people you're going to be like sticking with for a while. So, and yes, you're going to need a developer. I mean, there's a lot of ideas out there. You need development talent. That's one of the most valuable traits in the space, but not only.
Yeah, definitely. And just clarify, Thomas said it's a dApp that he's building. Emre, from your point of view, what would be the key considerations?
Yeah, similar to Valeria, look at what you're trying to optimize for. I mean, it's not that different than asking like, should I, build a more traditional web app or an app on, using AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure, right? Like if you're, I mean, obviously that's way more standardized, but like if you're trying to do a very simple at this point standard thing, like, I don't know, issuing a token, any blockchain can kind of support that. But if you have more bespoke needs, whether it's, I don't know, cheap transaction costs, or, you just want more tooling available, or you want to have specific, ZK functionalities, for example, then you gotta kind of navigate through that trade-off spectrum. So yeah, it depends is the answer.
It depends. Yeah, no, but you're completely right. It depends on the type of solution. Matty, any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's tough to give specific advice without knowing what the nature of the project is. If it's a dApp, yeah, come build it on Solana.
That's a good one. Yeah, simply put. Yes, it could. Very good, guys. I think our time is almost up. So, final thoughts, Matty. Besides building on Solana, any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think anyone who decided to attend this and start learning is already on the right path. I think that's kind of like the first step. So excited to have you guys all kind of start learning about the space, and hopefully you can jump in and start building in it as well, because I think that's when a lot of the learning comes. And yeah, if you guys want to learn more about Solana or just crypto generally, you can reach out to me. It's matt@solana.com. So yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. Emre? Yeah,
to add to that, hopefully, you're on the right track, definitely, and you're interested in Web3, and, hopefully you can find your own niche and something to act on. But even if you don't right now, or if you're, I don't know, appalled by something you see, Web3 is at this point an industry with a lot of, nuances and niches. So yeah, just, keep paying attention to it. Like again, an analogy is that, if you, I don't know, were around when the internet was first coming out in the 90s, and, decided to try to do something but couldn't figure out, and then you stopped paying attention, I'm sure you would be, disappointed by now, because obviously it's changed the world. As biased as we all are, we think Web3 will also change the world. So keep paying attention. And yeah, to Matty's point, if anyone wants to reach out on anything, I'm emre@01labs.org. So happy to, help people along this journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Emre. Valeria?
Yes. So essentially, in the Web3 space, you become your own financial advisor, your own bank, your own investment analyst. And so to that end, as you research different ecosystems, really look into the founders, the team, what they're made of, what their principles are, how they operate in this world. So there's no one coming to tell you like, this is the right way or this is the right way. Like, it's up to you. So just basically start living that truth. And my email is valeria@astar.network if you want to get a hold and learn more about building an Astar network. Perfect. Well, thank you to all our panelists, and thank you for watching us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.